Hi there. In this video, we're going to be looking at a relative month index column in a date table and how to make one and what you can do with it. So, relative month index, what are we talking about here? Well, let's go look at a problem first. I think that'll sort of illuminate it. So here we've got a fairly simple view, and in this view, we've got some time series data. This is just made up data that I invented, and we're going to call it like a forecast data. And it's sliced down to 2016 and the months January through July, and that works just fine. So when when I send this out, when somebody opens it up, it's going to pop up just like this. So 2016 is going to be selected, and we're going to be looking through July. So we're looking through July of the current year, and that works okay, except that when August rolls around, when they open up the report, if I don't do anything, they're still just going to see July. And so what I have to do is every month I have to open it up and hold down Control and click on August, save it, publish it, and I'm good to go. Now that's not a lot of work, but it's not a very satisfying solution to have to come in and modify the default selection of these slicers every month. So what we'd like is a system that looks a bit more like this. Or I'm sorry, here's a second problem. I got to define both problems first. The other issue that we've got is that if I just drop the time series on here without any slicers at all, I go back all the way here to 2015 and all the way to 2017. That's way too much time forward and way too much time back. And like a nice easy way to restrict it to sort of maybe a month or two forward from today and a month or two back from today. Well, that's what relative month index is going to let us do. So it's going to let us have this same old time series that we had before, but now we've got slicers that look like this. So we've got it sliced to the current month, the last month, and next month. And so the current month, it knows that since it's July of 2016 that it's going to filter to July of 2016, and it's also going to include August of 2016 and June of 2016. And when next month rolls around, this is automatically going to become August, and this will become September, and this will become July. And so I don't have to do anything. I've always got these nice little slicers that always let the person, the decision maker, choose the number of months backward and forward that they want to go from today, from the current system time, if you will. And also, if I deselect all of these, let me just undo all of them, notice that even when nothing is selected, I've got this special page level filter on here. Let me just crank it open here. This page level filter that says, hey, you know what? I only want you to show stuff 2 months into the future and 6 months back. So that's a really cool solution. Let's go take a look. At how we make the thing. So here's the finished one. I'm going to go ahead and close this. Nope, don't need to save it. It's already saved. So here we are. Here's where we're starting. So imagine that we haven't seen that awesome solution. We can just imagine it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by heading into our queries. So we're going to go to Home, and we're going to go to Edit Queries. Oh my, that's way too big. Let me shrink that down so you guys can see it. So grab the corner here and grab the corner here. Okay, that's a little better for you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this guy. By the way, in the finished version, I've solved it in DAX too. So when you download it, if you, for whatever reason, you're working like a SSAS tabular model and you can't do it in M, well, you could just use my solution from DAX. I may even do another video. But for now, we're going to keep it simple, and we're going to do it in M. I keep calling it Power Query. Really, it's just M or Get Data. They're all sort of the same thing. So we're going to start here where we've got a calendar table. I'm just going to call it dim date M. And we've got the date, we've got the year, the month name, and the day of the month. Pretty simple boilerplatey kind of stuff. So to start off with, the first thing we're going to need is the system date. And by system date, I mean what's the date right now? So whenever this model gets reprocessed, what is the date when it's being reprocessed? Well, that's actually, it's not unbelievably simple, but it's pretty easy. So we're going to go up and we're going to do Add Custom Column. So we're going to go to Add Column, Add Custom Column, and we're going to call this one System Date. Okay? And System Date is, it's two things. So we're going to start by doing a date time, and we're going to do fixed local now. And what this does is it gets the date time right now. So whenever this function gets executed, it goes into the system and says, hey, what's the date and the time right now? And I'm not done yet, but I'm just gonna click OK so you can see what it looks like. So you can see you can see exactly when I'm recording this video. It's 7/25/2016 and it's 10:54:37 p.m. Okay, so But that's not quite what we want. We just want the day part. Okay, we just want the day part. So I'm going to click on the little gear icon. Say, well, that's pretty nice, but we just want the day part. So we're going to do a date.from around the entire thing. And we're going to click OK. So now we've got our system date. So each row has its own date, and that's the row in the calendar table, but we've also got an entire column of what's the date right now when this M code is being executed, okay? Okay, so now that we've got our system date, we're going to start by grabbing our relative year index, okay? So what the relative year index means is for each one of these rows in the calendar table, so for like this one right here, what is the year of this date relative to the current system year? So since it's 2016 right now when I'm recording this date in the calendar table should be -1 because 2015 is one before 2016. Well, let's go ahead and make that happen. So we're going to add a custom column. Oh, I'm sorry. Bad housekeeping. I'm going to right click on add custom and I'm going to call this add system date. Add system date. Okay. So like I was saying, now we're going to add our relative year index. So we're going to add a custom column, and we're going to call this relative year index. Okay, so what do we want to do here? Well, this is actually pretty easy subtraction. So we're going to take the year of each row in the calendar table, and we're going to subtract the year of the system date. So I can't just subtract the system date because that's a date. So it would be like 2016 minus today, and that doesn't quite make sense. What we have to do is we just have to grab the year part. So we're going to do a date.year. It says, hey, I want to take a date, and I just want to grab the year part from it. Oh, okay. What do you want to grab from? Oh, we're just going to grab, nope, not the date. That's incorrect. We're going to grab the system date. So go find what day it is today, and just take the year part. So since it's 2016, the day I'm recording this, it's going to be 2015 for that first row minus 2016. We should get a -1. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And sure enough, relative year index for this row, since this row occurs in 2015 and I'm recording this in 2016, I get a -1. And I'm not going to scroll all the way down, but you can trust me, that goes through the entire calendar table. So that works just fine. So we're going to right click. We're going to be good at renaming things. We're going to do add relative year index, and we're going to hit enter. Okay, so now that we've got a relative year index, we can use that to create our relative month index, and you kind of have to do it in this order. If you were willing to write more complicated code, you wouldn't have to, but to keep it simple, I suggest doing it in this order. So we've got system date, relative year index. Let's add our relative month index. So this is the relative month index. Well, how do we get this? Is it the exact same thing we had before? Well, it's pretty close. So similar to what we had before is so if we were to do it exactly the same as last time, we would take the month and we would subtract the date.month of the system date, right? So go get the month, and since I'm recording this in July, it would be 7, and subtract whatever the month is in each individual row, subtract the current month. And that's actually not going to work. Let me click OK, and you'll see why. So it actually works if for all the calendar dates in the current year, or for all the dates in 2016, it's going to work just fine. But if you look, so January in 2015 isn't 6 months back, it's 12 months back. So we've taken account of the month part, but not the year part. So we have to modify this. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the little gear icon. And say, hey, we've got the month part. We've got the month part down perfect. I'm going to put parentheses around it just so we can help ourselves think of it as the month part. And now we have to do the year part. So to do that, we're going to take the relative year index and we're going to multiply it by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So if the relative year index, like we're looking at dates from this year, is 0, well, it's going to be 0 times 12, and that's going to be 0. By the way, we have to add those things. Do enter, make it a little easier to read there. So we take, if the relative year index was 0, it would be 0 times 12, so 0. And then we just get the month part, which we had before. But if it's last year, it's going to be 12 times -1, so it's going to subtract 12. So it's going to be -6, you can see that -6 down there, minus 12, and we're going to get -18, which is correct. That's this row is 18 months back from today, the day I'm recording this thing. So I click OK, and boom, there you go. If you want to get a calculator out, you can do it. But if we look at January 1st, 2015, that is indeed 18 months back from the day I am recording this. So we're going to do a right click, and we're going to add a relative month index, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now that we've got that, just because why not? Because it's pretty easy. I'm going to add a relative day index in case you want to add some page level filtering of only show stuff today and earlier. I'm going to do that. It's even easier to do. So we're going to do a relative day index. I realize this is not completely on mission here, but I think it's a useful thing to have. So relative day index, well, that's pretty easy. We're going to take the thing you might think you might want to do is take today's date and subtract the system date. And that's going to get you something very close. I'm going to click OK. This isn't what we want, but it's awfully close. We click OK, and we get, well, that's the right number there. I mean, you can take my word for it. January 1st is 571 days before when I'm recording this. We've got all these extra zeros. That's because when you just take two dates or date times and you subtract them or you add them, you end up getting a duration. So we have to convert that duration to a number. And that's pretty easy to do. Whoops, did that fast. So I'm going to come back down here, click on the gear icon, and I'm going to do a number.from. So we're going to take that duration and just convert it into a number. Okay, and click OK. Boom. So now that 571, all that gobbledygook, is just turned into negative 571 because this is 571 days before today, the day I'm recording this. Okay, so we've got all of our indexes, and those are useful for like page level filtering and stuff like that, or chart level filtering. So what we want to do now is we want to create those cool labels so that when we've got our slicers, it just doesn't say negative 18, negative 16, negative 1, 0, and 1. It says 18 months back, or last month, or this month, or next month, stuff like that. And so this is where things are going to get, I wouldn't say complicated, but this is just going to be sort of a climb up a big hill that's not terribly steep, but it's a big hill. Okay, but before we do that, we're going to be good. We're going to rename this. So we're going to call this add relative day index and hit enter. So now we're going to add our relative month index label that we're going to use for our slicers. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a custom column. I'm going to call it relative month index, or let's see, label. So this is the label that we're going to use. So before I start writing this thing, let's just think about what we want to do. What I want to do, or what I'm going to do, you could do whatever works for you. But my particular solution is I'm going to say, hey, is it more than 1 month ago? If it is, I want it to be the number of months ago. Number of months ago, and something like that. So it'd be something like, for example, like 18 months back. 18 months back. So that's, if it's more than 1 month ago, that's kind of what I want it to look like is 18 months back. Okay. So now I want to say, hey, is it exactly 1 month ago? If it is, I'm going to say, well, let's just do last month. Let's call that last month. That's what I'd like that one to look like. Okay, is it this month? If it's this month, I'm going to do current month or something like that. Is 1 month forward. We're going to do something like next month, and kind of so on and so forth. But let's see, more than 1 month forward. That I want you to do, like, let's say that it's 18 months. Well, let's say that it's 7 months forward. We want it to be something like 7 months forward. So that's kind of what the logic looks like. Forget the formula. Just this is what we're going to try and do. We're going to sort of go through one by one and check off each one of these things and say, hey, is it more than 1 month ago? If it is, it's however many months ago back. That's what we want it to look like. Is it exactly 1 month ago? Well, then we want it to be last month. Is this month the current month? Is it 0 months ago or 0 months forward? We want to put current month. If it's 1 month forward, next month. If it's more than 1 month forward, we're going to do 7 months forward. So if you haven't guessed, I'm going to do a big old nested if function to do that exact same logic. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to do if. Okay, I'm going to do enter 1, 2, 3, 4. We want the relative month index. We want to know if the relative month index is less than -1. Because if it is, it's more than 1 month back. Okay. If it is 1, 2, 3, 4, then well, what I want you to do is we're going to do a text.from. Text.from, and is case sensitive, and we want -1 times the relative month index, and we're going to do months back. Okay, so let's see, can I resize this? I don't even know if I can. I think I may be stuck not resizing this. That's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer. Okay, so what we're doing here, oh, I'm sorry, let me add that there. So if it's more than 1 month ago, then what I want you to do is take the number of months back it is. So let's say it's -18. Well, we're going to multiply it by -1, so that -18 just becomes 18. And then we're going to concatenate it with the text string months back. Well, let me add my space there. So if it was -7, it will be 7 months back. If it's -6, it'll be 6 months back, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's our first thing. Okay, so I'm going to do enter 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's see. So if that's not the case, though, if it's not the case, what if it's exactly -1 or something like that? Well, we're actually going to do this. We're going to do this in a specific order to make this thing run a little faster. Now we're going to say, what if it's more? Else if. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to take the relative month index again, and we're going to say, hey, what if the relative month index is greater than 1? What if it's greater than 1? Well, it's going to be pretty similar logic. If it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, then, in fact, the logic is so similar, I'm just going to steal this up here. I'm going to steal this whole part there, Control C, and Control V. Oh, too many spaces, backspace. Okay, so now it's going to be basically the same thing, except if it's like, say it's 3 months forward, well, I don't want to multiply it by -1, because if it's 3 months forward, what I want it to say is like 3 months forward. So now it's going to take the relative month index. If it's 3 months forward, that's going to be 3, and add that, or concatenate it with months forward. Okay, and the reason I've done it like this is because most of the rows in the calendar table are either more than 1 month back or more than 1 month forward. So I want to do this stuff early, so it'll just run a little bit faster. Okay, that's the reason I'm doing it like that. Okay. So we've seen if it's more than 1 month ago, we've seen if it's more than 1 month forward. Now we have to start doing the stuff that's a little closer to the present. So I'm going to do enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do else if 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to get the relative month index. So now we're going to say, hey, what if the relative month index is exactly -1, which is to say last month? Well, then this is where it gets a little bit easier. We've climbed the hardest part of the hill or the mountain here. If it's exactly 1 month ago, then we just want to have the text string last month. Okay, well that's pretty easy. All right, but we've covered most of our bases. We're more than 1 month back, more than 1 month forward, exactly 1 month back. So we have to do the current month and next month. So let's go ahead and just do that. Then okay, the last month. Else if 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to grab our relative month index is equal to 0. Say, hey, if it's equal to 0, well then, all I want you to do is current month. Great, awesome. Okay, so what if it's, we've got almost all of our bases covered here. So I'm going to do else if. So the only other one we have to do is what if it's 1 month forward? So we've got 1 month back, current month, and we'll do 1 month forward. Let's see, whoop, whoop, whoop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Else if relative month index is equal to 1. Well, if it's equal to 1, then I want you to do next month. Okay. And finally, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Well, I don't really need to do that. Else finally, since I should have all my bases covered for this last one, I'm just going to say, hey, if it's not one of those things, something's weird, something strange is going on in the table, so I'm just going to do error. I don't expect to run into that very often, but you know, you could. So let's see. So we've got all these guys here. That all sounds good. Oh, and okay. So, oops. Oh, I'm sorry. Then right there. So we should be just good. Just be all right. So if it's more than 1 month back, we do that. If it's more than 1 month forward, we do that. Exactly 1 month back, we do that. If it's this month, we do that. And if it's 1 month forward, we do that. We should go ahead and click OK. And there we go. That was the hardest part. So I'm glad you stuck with me, or I hope you stuck with me. But I thought it was pretty important for you to see how you write that and how it all works. And if we keep scrolling here, like so 2 months back, let's just sort of look at that date right there. The relative date is so it's July right now of 2016. So on June we get last month, and for May we get 2 months ago, or 2 months back. Change to whatever you want, current month and next month. So great, it's working. Okay, so we've done all the really hard stuff. So I'm going to right click there. I want to rename this add relative day label, and I'm going to hit enter. And I am going to, with all that good hard work done, I'm going to go ahead and go home and close and apply. Great. Okay. So now that I've got that, there's one other pretty important thing I have to do. So if I just do these as is, you got to remember that if I throw this on a slicer, it's automatically going to sort by the text, and I don't want it to sort by the text. I want it to sort by the relative month index. So we're just going to go ahead and do that. So by the way, if you can't see that, or you probably can see it on your screen, if you're wondering why you can't see it on mine, it's because I hit this little button right there. So we're going to change this to modeling, and we're going to add a sort by column. And we're going to sort the month index label by the month index. Click OK. Should be all done. Okay. So now let's go ahead. I'm just gonna duplicate this guy, make my time a little bit easier. So now that I've got that, I'm going to shrink this, give us some room there. So now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and we're just going to remove these guys because we don't need them anymore. Okay. So now we had that problem before where we're showing way too much stuff. But let's start by doing not the whole solution, but part of it. So we want to grab the relative month index label. We're going to drag that up there. We're going to turn that into a slicer. We're going to head over here. We're going to click on general because we want this to be a horizontal slicer because they look pretty nice. And let's see. So let me see, why is this, that's behaving very strangely. So we want the relative month index label. Oh, I know why it's happening. Okay, so here's an example of real world troubleshooting. It's imported the relative month index as a text field, so we have to change this to -6 so that's actually a numeric value. So I'm going to click there, click this guy down. So we're going to change this from data type text to data type whole number. Yep, I'm sure that I want to change it. Okay, so now, see, so now this is a whole number, and this sort should hopefully work correctly. So let's sort by relative month index. Okay, so now we've got exactly what we want. So we go 18 months back, 17 months back, 16. So we're most of the way there. The one last thing we have to do is this is way too many months back. Nobody wants to see this many months back. I mean, maybe they do. But in my particular world, we only want to see, like, say, 6 months back and 1 month forward. So the next thing we can do is we can take our, let me resize this a little bit. We're going to take our relative month index, and we're going to drop that as a page level filter. And as a page level filter, we want to show items where it's less than, I'm going to do less than or equal to. I think that's easier to think about. So 1, as in 1 month forward, and is greater than or equal to, let's do -6. So we should only see all the way from 6 months back to 1 month forward. We click apply, and sure enough, close that, and there's that guy. Sure enough, there we go. See, this guy's kind of in the way. Let me get this. In fact, I'm just going to delete this guy. So now we've got, got our nice slicers that go all the way from 6 months back to 1 month forward. Okay. Well, I do hope that was helpful. There is a, if you can't do this in M, there is a way to do it in DAX, and I may show that in another video. And even if I don't, it's actually in the solved version of the file that I'm going to post up here. So if you need to do it that way, there are solutions available too. But I think it's a little better to do in M. It's a little easier to think about. And it's super duper useful. I think this is a really cool thing to have on your reports. Okay, well, I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video.